I'm Danielle Ricks, and I'm the Director of Education and Community Engagement at Montgomery Community Media. And I'm so happy to introduce you to our brand new program that we just launched. It was created to house all of our youth programming. It's an opportunity for us to address racial equity and social justice by incorporating digital storytelling. The MCM Digital Futures Institute came about because we were asking ourselves, are we being equitable? Are we being inclusive? Are we creating the space for people to come to us and share their ideas, to learn? And have we created a space in the community to share stories that will amplify unrepresented voices in Montgomery County? Under MCM's Digital Futures Institute, we have two tracks. One, which is the Next Gen program, which houses our programming for high school and college students. And the other one is our BIPOC LGBTQIA+ fellowship for young adults who want to learn more about digital storytelling. Under the MCM Digital Futures Institute is the BIPOC LGBTQIA+ fellowship, where we invite young people to learn digital storytelling techniques and multimedia technology for them to create their own stories and create their own voice. It was an honor to launch the BIPOC LGBTQIA+ fellowship and working with our first Montgomery Community Media fellows. We learned as much from them as they learned from us. Now that the pilot MCM, BIPOC, and LGBTQIA+ fellowship has come to an end, we will be keeping up with the fellows along their career path. We know that they will be responsible, ethical, equitable, and socially conscious digital storytellers. And we can't wait to see what they do next.
Hi, I'm Andrea Duran, and I'm one of the fellows here for the first BIPOC and LGBTQI+ Digital Storytelling Fellowship here at my MCM.
Hi, my name is Marianelli De Leon, and I am a current fellow for the BIPOC and LGBTIA+ fellowship.
My name is Aisha So. I am a digital storytelling fellow with Montgomery Community Media this year. This summer, we had a pilot fellowship for BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ fellows where we get to tell stories within our communities. And as somebody who identifies as BIPOC as well as Muslim, I felt as though that this fellowship would give me the opportunity to help amplify voices within my community. I remember my first day as if it was yesterday. So we were at the Rockville office, and I live not far from there, so it was about a 15-minute commute. And for majority of the day, it was just like back-to-back meetings. We were meeting some of the staff members that were there, such as Joe, Brian, Rawa, and Olivia. And we also took a tour of the office. So we got to see like the studios, and we got to see what MCM does and like what they're about.
My first day as a fellow, I was, a little nervy. But mostly I was really excited just to meet everyone and see what this was about. I was really anxious just because the fellowship took a while to really like get started and the ground, and like some people got sick, and there were some stumbling blocks there to really like get started. So once we were in, I was really excited to meet everyone and see what everything was about.
For the most part, when it was my first day, I pretty much had to remind myself that I'm doing this to try to bring change in some way, shape, or form to our communities, especially since the BIPOC and LGBTQIA communities have been pushed to the side, especially since people don't see us as anyone worth much value, or if they do try to see us in a certain way, it's not in the way that we really want them to. And this fellowship is to hopefully get people's perceptions to change of us. I'm really trying my best to hopefully bring out the best in everyone within these communities. And for the most part, I would think hopefully I'm doing a very good job with that.
So during the planning phase of my first couple of shoots, I think it was just trying to plan how the stories were gonna come together, like what medium, what format they would look like, and then plan accordingly. Because the stories that I worked on, you know, with LGBTQIA plus issues and Latino issues too, you know, and especially like a sensitive topic like overdoses, I wanted to make sure that the story fit, like the way that I put it together and the format that it was going to be in, you know, did those stories justice. So it's just like the planning stages were, you know, tough, just trying to get interviews in and getting the people and then seeing what that might all look like.
I approached storyboarding was through the workshop that Delmar taught us. We did like, you know, a walkthrough of like different methods of storyboarding. So like using a script and using different websites or any other information that will be valuable for planning out our films.
An aha moment for me was just coming up with a good question for the interviewee to answer. Like for one, when I had an interview with the owner of TNAA Constructions, he pretty much had mentioned to me about how it wasn't just his organization that was in that office. There was another one called CIS Group that ended up being the reason why his organization, his company, started becoming part of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And that to me kind of made me realize, oh, I should probably ask him to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Aha moment I had was definitely getting full control of the picture in my camera. It's like not relying on the auto settings and getting able to do it myself. And you know, sometimes light, like if you know you're shooting with daylight, it shifts. And so for me to be able to be like, not this time, sun, you know, and be able to balance it and keep with it and try to keep the picture as uniform as I could get it. That was a good moment.
I think one thing that Danielle had taught me was just it's best to like overshoot so that you can get as much footage as possible.
I loved all the interviews that I did. And when it came to the healthcare disparities interview, for example, I had Scott Massioni, who is a health reporter for the WYPR, and Brian Smedley, who is a fellow over at the Urban Institute. They both came up with very elaborate answers when I had questions about how the health disparities could affect BIPOC and LGBTQIA communities. So for one, I really wanted to speak with Brian about the racism aspect of healthcare, because I had explained in the interview, and so did he on a more elaborate level, that one of the reasons why healthcare could actually be a huge issue for people of color is because there are still very racist teachings going on in medical schools that sadly make medical students who would later become our nurses, our doctors, anyone within healthcare, make them assume that people of color are not deserving of the same treatment as those who don't identify as a person of color.
For my LGBTQIA story on the lack of third spaces or spaces to socialize for LGBTQIA folks here in Montgomery County, it's something that they didn't really think about. And I use the term third spaces because I read it in an article a year ago. Your first place is your home, your second place is your work, and third space is somewhere you can socialize with others. And when I was talking to them about that, they were like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't even think of it like that. But yeah, it's like, it's a huge thing that I've just been dealing with. It's just, I never really even thought about, because it is what it is, but it is something that frustrates me. And so we got into a whole conversation, and it was really something that, it's one of those things where it's an issue, but because there's never been a place to really just talk about it, now that I'm trying to sort of give a space for that, it is actually something that people really opened up about, especially the person that I interviewed yesterday, Professor Ellen Olmsted.
I think definitely my favorite shoot was the farmer's story. I really enjoyed like the entire time that I was there, like going to the farm, getting footage and taking a tour of like all the produce, especially produce that is grown in Africa. I also interviewed Tanya and Trufina, and I really enjoyed their conversations. I really enjoyed interviewing Tanya. I would say she was my favorite interviewee, and like hearing her story and the pre-interview that we had. So I think that was really helpful, having the pre-interviews to like learn about her coming to the US from Zimbabwe and growing food from her country and starting her farm passion to seed gardening.
I took on the risk to host this panel discussion, even though I'd never done that before. I'd been the interviewee for a podcast, but never the one who hosted it. But I think it went pretty well. It was sort of filmed in front of people who were already in the studios. And for the most part, thankfully, they said it looked pretty well. It looked professional. I did pretty well as a hostess to the panel discussion. But I still think it worked out in the end, because it's definitely something that we need to do more of, more panel discussions about whatever topics that need to be spoken about, like healthcare, like things such as with racism and how we could try to combat that.
I think the most rewarding part of this process is just, making sure that I amplify the voices of like people within my community that need to be amplified. I think getting these stories out to the public and having people from the county see them, I think that will be the most rewarding thing out of this entire process.
I'm proud to be part of MCM, and this whole thing has been so good in helping me once again refresh my journalistic skills.
This county is one of the most diverse in the country, so I think the most rewarding part of this entire experience was able to really bring that to the table, and for MCM to put value in not just like diversity for diversity's sake, but diversity in terms of reflecting reality.
I think the people here, whether it's the staff here, the fellows that I worked with, the support that we had, and just like the different experiences that we could all bring to each other. As someone who is very new to this avenue of digital storytelling,
those memories of just being here at MCM, getting all the contact infos, all of the footage, everything will stay with me for the rest of my life.
I think what also brought me a lot of joy was that it helped reignited my passion for digital storytelling, journalism.
I've learned so much from being with MCM, and honestly, I can't be thankful enough for having this opportunity.
Thanks, MCM.